Hi everyone. During this video, we're going to be talking about CloudGuard network security and AWS Cloud WAN, securing it, onboarding into it, and configuring it. This will be the first in probably a series of these videos around the Cloud WAN integration. Hopefully you enjoy. Take care. All right, so let's get started. I've built this entire lab out just for the sake of time. This is going to simulate a multi-region configuration in AWS. I'm using US West 1 and EU West 1. I've got two VPCs in each, prod and staging. I've also got a security VPC in each. And what we're going to do is kind of just show the Cloud WAN configuration and how it hooks into and how you can control and secure your traffic between these attachments, we'll call them, or segments. And this is what it's going to end up looking like. This is kind of what the flow looks like. So we're going to be doing both intra-region traffic flows and showing that, but also inter-region, so between regions. Just something to point out, and you'll see this in the demo, is traffic's going to flow from the VPCs through the security segment and then back into wherever it's got to go. For traffic that's going between regions, it's actually going to flow through both security segments. So it's going to flow from here to here, across, and then up to wherever it's got to go. And we'll show that during the demo. Something else you'll notice as part of this is, and maybe it's obvious, is I have pre-staged the gateway load balancer configurations in both regions. I did use our CloudFormation templates that are available to build all this automatically for you, and I highly recommend you use those if you need to. I'll take a look. I'll show you those SKs here in a second. So SK 111013 contains all of the AWS CloudFormation templates. And in this case, I used this one, which deploys an auto-scaling group for a gateway load balancer. I ran that stack. And then for the other region, I just ran it again, but without a management server. So it will deploy a management server for you. And then once you have that second region configured, you'll have to attach it to your management server via CME config. And so there'll be follow-on labs and under the hood sessions to go through all these different pieces. And just to take a quick glance at the policy, in case you're curious, it's just allowing internal traffic to talk to each other, my inbound lab machine, and egress traffic, etc. So let's get started in configuring our Cloud WAN. So we'll jump over to our configuration. And create our global network. And pick our edge locations that we have. We're using Northern California and Ireland, as mentioned. And to match our architecture, we'll use spokes as the definition for the segment name. Something else to point out is by default, all these attachments, all these different groupings, these attachments have access to each other. So we're actually going to configure them to not be able to talk to each other. And that's basically what they call is isolated. So we're going to isolate these attachments, isolate these VPCs from talking to each other, because the default behavior is to allow them to talk if they're in the same segment. And we'll let this create. We'll pause the the video just to speed this up so that it's a little quicker in the video, and we'll be right back. Alright, now that our core network is available, we can make our attachments. Go back to the drawing. Each of the VPCs has an attachment that will attach also via the security will also do its own attachment to the network, so they can communicate via the Cloud WAN. Jump in there. And give them proper names. So I'm going to do NorCal Broad. Give it a tag as well. I'm going to do these for all of these connections, for all these segments. And same thing for Ireland. If you are happen to be watching this on a repeat or not live, you may need to manually modify your video quality settings. By default, it tries to save bandwidth, so if it's not coming through very clear, give that a shot. We have heard that from other people. Okay, it's creating our 4 attachments. And then when we do the security attachments, we're going to make one modification, which you'll see here. We're going to enable appliance mode. That allows for proper traffic symmetry when it's going through the gateway load balancer configuration. So we're going to create that attachment. Enable appliance mode support. We're going to give him a different role, which we'll use later. Same for Ireland. All right, so the next step is to create static routes on each of the production subnets route tables to point their default route to the core. So just to illustrate that, to the core, that's the route we need to add. If that's not clear. Do the same for Ireland. And then one other piece, we need to actually send traffic from the gateway load balancer endpoint subnets back to, or have a route back to the top level CIDR for each region. So in this case, these will be pointing to 172.16.00/20, and for Ireland it'd be 192.168.00/20. Do it for the other one as well. And same for California. All right, now that that part's done, it's kind of busy work. Now we can actually do some Cloud WAN configuration and make the magic happen. So if we go back to our Cloud WAN configuration and take a look at the attachments real quick. you'll see that no segments are actually defined yet. And that's kind of where the magic of the Cloud WAN comes into play, and being able to assign rules and policies, so to speak, based on the segment they're attached to. So the first thing we're going to do is add segments for our security segments for both Ireland and for California. And so if you're not familiar with the Cloud WAN policy, you can either do it via the GUI, or there's actually JSON as well, which makes it very programmatic and very easy to modify and maintain going forward. It's very easy to read. So we're going to add some new segments by making modifications to the policy. Then we'll actually go into our spoke segment that we created earlier by default and make sure it's isolated so that they can't talk to each other. Like we mentioned before, by default, they're allowed to talk to each other automatically. And now that that's done, we're going to create an attachment policy based off of the tag we created earlier for the role of spoke. And same goes for our security segments. And now that that's done, we're going to share the segments, share the spokes, or share the virtual security, or share the security segments with the spoke segments and their routes. And do that for both Northern California and Ireland. Set. And now that that's complete, we finish that task by creating a default route that points the spoke traffic to our security segments, and so that way the traffic's always flowing to the proper region as it's exiting. So anything going forward that gets assigned to the spoke segment is going to get the correct policy, so it's automatic. So once the initial configuration is done, it becomes much simpler and straightforward. And you can see the power of and the simplicity of it. Then in similar fashion, we need to create routes to point the Northern California traffic that's going from, if it's destined for Ireland, to send it across properly. So if I go to the diagram, we're going to create a route table that says, traffic trying to get to Ireland, it's coming from this side, it needs to know how to get there. So we're going to say this, anything hitting here is going to send it across to these sites or send it through, and so it's going to get there properly. So we'll add routes for that. So going to double check 92.168. reverse. So now that we've made the changes to the policy, we're going to create a new version and execute it, which then pushes that change down. And we'll apply. And I'll pause the video so we don't need to watch this. All right, so now that our policy has executed, I'm going to go ahead and clean up this real quick. Delete this. And he's gone. Now we can test some traffic. So I've got a couple of systems here. This is in the same region, so I'm going from, go to the diagram, I'm going from this subnet from in prod over to the staging subnet 02. Let's do 7. And we'll go take a look at our logs quick. Got them in here already pre-populated just to save us some time. Here's my echo request going across. You can see that it is traversing the correct firewall or the correct load balancer group as you would expect. If we do it in reverse, we should get the same behavior, which proves our routing is happy. And it is. Change this to destination. And there's my ping, so that's good. Okay, now that we've proven that, we're going to try to ping a box over in Ireland from the same system we just pinged. Inter-region, we're going to do, or intra-region, I should say. We go inter-region over to Ireland. This should work as well since our firewall policy is wide open. And let's see what happens. Looks good. Let's go take a look at our firewall policy again. Beautiful. And as expected, we are seeing both firewalls reporting in. Both the US West firewall saw the traffic as well as the Ireland, the EU West firewall saw the same traffic. That is what we want to see. That's excellent. So that is it in a nutshell. As you add segments with the correct tagging, etc., there's way more we could go into, and we will as we progress through these different pieces of Cloud WAN. But this kind of gives you a taste of what's possible. The integration with Gateway Load Balancer, which is an auto scaling solution, both in out and in, to address whatever throughput you may need. We've got you covered. Not to mention applying world-class security to this traffic that you need inspected. So hopefully this was helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions or have any ideas on things you want to see. But like I said, this is just the beginning. And we'll be doing more and more of these sessions around Cloud WAN and various use cases, because there's, as you can imagine, there's pretty much, an endless amount of things we could try and play with and do. And it does support microsegmentation in various forms. So appreciate your time. Take care. Be safe. Thank you very much.